Is the world being turned into one gigantic cult? Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this, because the more that I look into the world and I look into Hollywood and the media and the World Health Organization and Bill Gates and big tech and Mark Zuckerberg and all these different things, the more I'm realizing, as has been told, as the conspiracy theorists and the Simpsons and the American dollar and everything will tell you, that there is a new world order coming along where a very small number of people are going to have control over everybody else. Now, here's the thing. We all have the right. We have the God-given right to our free will. So they can't just do things, right, overnight and change everything, because then the people will fight back. We see this happening all the time. So what they have to do is they have to slowly edge us in up until a point where we agree to enough things that and allows us to hand over the power to them enough that they can do it, whilst us kind of being brainwashed enough to allow that to happen. And it really reminds me of cults, because if you look at what happens in cults, you always have somewhat brainwashing that goes on. You know, people are convinced that this is the best thing for everybody. This is the way, this is how we're going to survive. There's always kind of that element of like, we are the higher knowing, the better knowing, the in control, whatever it is, right? And that convinces everybody to be a part of it. And then you become so a part of it and so brainwashed that by the time it's absolute nonsense, you don't even realize it's absolute nonsense, because it happened very slowly. But then at that point is when the cult leaders get exposed to be as satanic and evil as they really are. And you're just going along with it. And that's what I think is happening in the world today. We are being brainwashed, programmed to think a lot of things are helpful, like the World Health Organization and their you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Well, you'll own nothing, right? And that means you have no say on anything, because you have no right of owning that. We get to say, we get to make the rules. So you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. If they convince you that's the truth, and you go along with that and you're programmed into thinking that, then you're going to run along into that plan thinking, amazing, I won't own anything, but I'll be happy and this sounds better. And all it takes is for them to change what they're doing. You've already given over all the reins to them, and now you're controlled, and now we're all living in a global cult. Are we in society being made in the whole world into a global cult? Is the new world order a global cult? That's what I want to ask you guys. Now, I did a video talking about cult leaders, and I would check it out, and I just talk about how they like abuse things like religion and stuff, and how it's very, especially the Christian ones, they're very unbiblical, a lot of them. They've abused different parts of religions, and the fact that we as people, I do believe, are built so that there's somewhat of like, we're built so that we have people that we trust in or that we follow, that there needs to be leaders to have a vision in our direction that we're moving in, for them to understand what's going on, you know, government and things like that. So it's not that I'm against that, but because we're built to in that way to almost follow, if you will, then it's easy for that to be manipulated. And I kind of talked about how that's what cult leaders do. They know that people want somebody to trust in, somebody to follow, somebody to believe in, and they use that to their own advantage, right? To reel people in. And I feel that's what's being used with us today. That's why I always say to you, I find it very fascinating as a woman who's also technically a scientist as well myself, that whenever science stuff comes up, they always use all the fancy language that nobody understands, like the person who's outside of science doesn't understand. When you're a person who does understand science, you would know that a lot of the things they say, like with this current stuff that's been going on the last 2 years, a lot of the words and things they say words to confuse people, because guess what? You'll be then confused thinking, I don't understand what they're talking about, but they seem to be talking about something serious and I'm going to listen to them because they're clearly so intelligent. When in reality, they could actually explain it to you in a way that's so simple. But I'll tell you why they don't do that, because if they did, then you'd be able to put 2 and 2 together and realize that they're telling you that 2 and 2 plus 2 makes 5. And you'd be able to be like, wait, no, 2 plus 2 makes 4. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's what I'm talking about when I say this global cult. It's like a so many stage plan. You've got the Hollywood, the entertainment industry, the people you follow, the people you support, influencers. We even call them that now. That's how much we acknowledge the influence of you supporting someone. You have influencers. Celebrities are like influencers, right? They were like the first influencers. Whatever that celebrity tells you, you're going to do it. Those people are controlled anyway. Most of them are industry puppets. Most of them are, even if they weren't starting off as industry puppets, the industry takes control of them and tells them, if you don't do everything we're going to tell you, you're going to destroy your career. You're never going to get to be an artist. or they just get enough dirt on them that if they ever go out, if they ever try and expose what's happening, if they ever try and go against what they're doing, then they'll just expose them. So they have control over them there. The media does the same thing. The media, who's supposed to just tell us unbiased information as to what's taking place in the world, what do? They're always swayed to one side or the other. Nowadays, they choose one thing. They're commenting on how they feel. That's not your job as the news. Your job is to tell us what's happening and leave it at that. But we don't see that, right? So there's that. We've got the indoctrination camps, aka schools, where people are still struggling in this day and age to get the education they need in the more important subjects like English, if you're from an English country, whatever country you're from, maths, you know, the basic types of, even just those two. A lot of people struggle just to be good at those two, right? But instead we want to introduce all these other classes talking about critical race theory, talking about sexuality to 10-year-olds. Can you not see that in all these different areas of our lives, right? They are edging us towards, and then we have this stuff like, oh, all of a sudden podcasts are so popular. Oh, you know why? Because these big platforms, they take advantage that any way that they can get into our psyche, into our conscious or subconscious, they're going to take advantage of it. Whether that's music, reading books. I did in my media playlist, which I highly recommend you guys check out. In the media playlist, I talk about how it's interesting that it'll be the same person will own something on every level. The same person will own a book publishing company. Then they'll own the National Geographic Channel. Then they'll own a record label. Then they'll own a news platform. Then they'll own all these other things. So you could listen to music, stream some music, and then read a book, and then watch the news, and all of those three things that you've seen so far that day are all controlled by the same person. You see how that works? And so that's why I feel like we're kind of being created into this cult, where the whole world is being turned into a cult, and they're trying to convince us, right, to believe what they're saying, so that when they start to throw in more and more, and have you noticed things are just getting like, it's like things get dark and then we go really dark and then we kind of let that sink in and it goes really dark and then it sinks in again. And when you look back 10 years, you think, if you would never think the world would be how it is today 10 years ago. If you could, a lot of people, if they could go back and change the decisions they made 10 years ago, would do that. And so what I'm trying to say to you guys in this video is, let's be the ones who recognize what's happening now, okay? Let's throw this conspiracy theorist concept out the window, because it just seems to be, and I still use that phrase because it's the one that people respond to, but it seems to me, as a so-called conspiracy theorist myself, that conspiracy theorists know what they're talking about. Conspiracy theorists might just have your best interest at heart, right? They might just want to see what's happening and prepare before there's a time where everything else is being controlled and we just have to comply now, because that's what's going to happen. And that's what happens in cults. One person misbehaves, somebody doesn't do something, and they decide to make an example of that person, and that makes everybody else behave. I think about this, like in the United Kingdom, there's this celebration they have on the 5th of November, right? And it's called, what's it called? But it's Bonfire Night, right? And it's all about this guy called Guy Fawkes, who tried to overthrow, like basically blow up Parliament years ago, right? The British government building, whatever. And every bonfire night, they light bonfires all over the United Kingdom, burning, like, not a real person, but like something shaped as like as though it was a man. It's probably just made of like, I don't know what, like hay and stuff, right? And every year that's like a reminder. And I realized, you know what, this is actually programming, because they're trying to say to us, and it was very sad for me to come to that realization, because it's actually one of my favorite celebrations that's like specific to my favorite celebration that's specific to the UK. Just because there's bonfire and there's fireworks and you get to go to the fair and you get the fair food and you get to do the rides and all that stuff, which I think is so cool. But then I realized that, wait a minute, them doing that every year is a reminder that this is what happens when you go against the government. This is what happens. This, you know, and it's somewhat of a programming, because we learned the song in school. Remember the 5th of November, when gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. I learned that in primary school when I was like 10 or 8 or 9. The whole song. Right? Why? It's programming. Because they're like, you don't go against the government. You listen to everything the government tells. This is what happens. And that's why I believe that we as the world are being groomed for the world to become essentially a cult. And those cult leaders, when they get to that point, I'm telling you this stuff, guys, because by the time they get to that point, just like the other cult leaders, trust me, they're going to be their evil true selves in your face, because you're already going to, and we're already starting to see it a little bit, they're going to be their evil true selves in front of your face, because you're going to be so trapped in it, so brainwashed, so controlled that you can't get out of it. This is why I'm against communism. Because as I always say to you guys, communism means there has to be somebody sitting at the top. Or some people. And I don't trust the people who are trying to keep themselves up there, like what the World Health Organization is doing. And they're trying to say, well, we want to decide whatever constitutes a pandemic. We want to decide what every country has to do as a result. They want to decide everything for every country. Sounds cute when you think, oh, we want to make sure that people don't die and blah, blah, blah. Even though majority of the stuff that's affecting people is stuff that they created, like the whole thing that was affecting everyone the last 2 years, which didn't even affect humans prior, which anyways is not even what they're saying it is, but we won't even talk about that today. So I'm saying this to you guys. I'm literally like the warning. Think of me as like a I come here to warn you guys, to let you know, to give you the information. And you don't have to believe me. As I always say to you guys, it's not about me trying to tell you something for you to listen to me like I'm Jesus Christ. I'm absolutely not Jesus Christ, although he is my Lord and Savior. But it's so you go and do your own research and think for yourself. It's so you don't have to be looking back 10 years from now and thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I had done this different, or I wish I'd done that differently. Because once these people have the power, just like real cult leaders, don't you worry. At that point, they won't care about pretending. They won't care about controlling the narrative. You think that just because you're a human being and you're on earth that you're going to always be able to fight for your rights? No, because our decisions, they have consequences. The more we are blind and we make decisions based on our blindness, think about the BLM situation, right? Think about the state in the United States. How many people are regretting the person they voted into presidency right now? How many things are we going back and realizing, oh, looks like Donald Trump was right about that, and he was right about that, and he was right about that, and he was right about that, and he's right about that. Now, I'm not here to say that I'm starting the Donald Trump fan club or that I agree with everything he did, but I'm saying there was a clear narrative and a clear selectiveness going on with what was being shared, and you got to ask yourself why, right? You got to ask yourself why we accidentally left all these weapons and things with the Taliban. Gotta ask yourself these questions, guys. They might not be nice to talk about. You might not be into politics, but guess what? What goes on in politics, those decisions affect you. And the people who are going to be affected the most are the people who ignore it. So rather than ignoring it, I know it can be overwhelming. Take your time, look for it. This is why I personally love having a relationship with the Lord, because the Lord just says to me, like, this is what you need to worry about today. Other than that, don't worry about anything else. So my life is very peaceful in that sense. I'm not struggling, trying to stress myself, researching every single little thing all the time, which a lot of people do, because that's what happens when you try to understand what's going on in the world without God in your life, to be honest. So yeah, guys, I'm honestly just telling you guys this stuff because I really want you to be able to keep the free will that God gave you on this earth and be in control of your life and not fall for the tricks of these cult leaders. Because trust me, the things that I even see, and I've talked about them, it gets deep, y'all. Anyways, that's enough for this video. Please do subscribe if you've enjoyed my video. I'd really appreciate it. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts in the comments. You agree, disagree? What are your thoughts? What are your conspiracies? What did you need to get off your chest in this moment about what I've been talking about today? Don't forget to like the video. Other than that, God bless every single one of you, and I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.